Lawmakers out of town, but there are more than enough stories to keep us busy. From Donald Trump's rise in the polls to kickballgate, our insiders are itching to weigh in on all these issues. They are veterans of New York politics who join us each week. In New York tonight is Richie Fife. He is the former campaign manager for ex-Governor David Paterson. He is now the president of the consulting firm RJF Communications. And in Albany, we are joined by Brendan Quinn. He is the former executive director of the state Republican Party, and now he's a private consultant. Gentlemen, thanks for your time.
Good evening.
Good to be here.
Wonderful. So let's talk about Donald Trump. He's been getting a lot of attention lately. That's an understatement. And you know, he seems to be serious, and it seems as if people are taking him serious. For instance, the conservative group, A Club for Growth in D.C., points to Trump's liberal record on taxes and health care. Brendan, are Republicans taking him seriously?
Well, I think you're right about the earlier point. The attention he's getting, he's very serious about all the attention. I don't think he's very serious about running, because at some point he has to take his TV show off the air, and everyone's talking about when will he actually become a real candidate and answer questions, because he really hasn't answered questions yet.
What do you think, Richard?
Well, I think he's serious because he has money, he has name ID, he's serious because he gets a lot of attention, and I think he's serious because of the lack of seriousness of all the other candidates. But having said that, he seems to be modeling his campaign after that other great developer candidate, Carl Palladino. By appealing to the lowest part of the constituency, by advancing this ridiculous, discredited birther argument, something even rejected by the conservative governor of Arizona, who doesn't even want to be close to it. He's discredited himself, and there's no chance he could be elected president.
I mean, how long do you think he can ride that birther argument? Today he said that he would reveal his tax returns, or he would make them public only if Obama produced a real birth certificate. So he's still pushing that forward.
He can ride it because it'll get him attention, and it will advance him in a 5-6-way race where the other candidates are unknown. It will put him to the top to 20%, which is enough to win that kind of race. But it's not how you get elected president. It's not how you inspire the American people.
The voters are very concerned about the economy, jobs, and taxes. There's a small segment that are interested in this, and you have to wonder if Donald's been sniffing his hairspray too much.
But he has hired political staff, and he says he will make his announcement official. He will announce officially in June whether or not he plans to run. Should Obama be worried?
I'd be worried whether or not The Apprentice is being renewed. Then we'll know whether he's running.
You guys are not going for it at all, Richard.
Well, I think he's doing a great service for Obama right now by taking attention away from the important issues of jobs and the economy and deficit. You know, Ross Perot, when he ran, he was out there with his charts and explaining the deficit. That would be a lot better tack for Donald Trump and for the Republican candidates than this ridiculous stuff they're doing now.
Is this just simply showing how weak the Republican field is at this point, Brendan?
I think the Republican candidates are out there putting together their organization and building their team. It's always tougher when you don't have the White House and you're the party out of power, and it's always tough when you're trying to build an organization and you have the Republicans control Congress, and yet Boehner has gone around the country and sucked up a lot of the operatives and is raising a ton of money to go get his team reelected. So the Republicans that are out there are scrambling to find their way and find their people out there. And at some point, you know, those potential candidates will take the next step, but they're going at their schedule, and none of them want to be the first one out there, which has created a bit of this vacuum, which is why a person like Donald Trump can get in there and fill it.
I mean, Richard, do you see any Republicans out there that you think would pose a major opposition for the president?
Well, I think there's going to be an election, and it's an evenly divided country, so there's going to be a close election. But I think, you know, having Donald Trump out there overshadowing them, as Brendan says, sucking the air out of it, what's going on, makes it harder and harder. So we'll see once the Republicans decide on a candidate what happens. But the way they're going now is making the job harder, not easier.
All right, let's move over to the 26th congressional district race. Campaign finance numbers are out, and the Tea Party candidate Jack Davis and Republican Jane Corwin have already spent over $1 million on their campaign. What does that say? I mean, we're only in April, and the special election is May 24th. What does this say for the campaign moving forward?
Special elections are always more expensive. There's a condensed time frame. There's no other communication going on, so there's nothing else politically on the airwaves. Everyone's jumping in to get out there. In a district like that, where you have a large multi-county district, there's 7 counties, you have different TV markets you have to play in, you have to spend money to get your name out there.
How do you think this is going to play out, Richard?
Well, I think the interesting thing from the filings was really that Kathy Hochul is the one who's raising money locally from individual contributors and building a base. I mean, she's raised almost twice as much from contributors than her Republican opponent. And I think, you know, it's a Republican area, but it's also a district where the people want someone who's a fighter, who's worked hard, and I think that's going to play to Kathy Hochul's advantage. You know, I met Kathy when I was working with David Patterson, and there was a proposal to make New Yorkers get new license plates and pay the fee for new license plates, and no one fought harder to get rid of that. And she was persistent. She talked to the governor. She called me daily, and she had it not by going out there and yelling and screaming, but doing the hard work it takes to get something done. So she's a tough candidate and a fighter, and a Democrat who could win that district.
She may have raised the most money, but the other two are independently wealthy, and the more resources you have, the more you can do with that. So you think it's, I mean, isn't that going to hurt Kathy in the long run, that she doesn't have millions in her bankroll?
Well, I think she'll have enough to get her message out, and what you also need in special elections is people. I mean, you can't, the people who turn out are the most involved people, and they're ones who are least influenced by TV and other kind of mediums like that. And I think by having a base, of building a base of people is what takes to win. You know, last year in the race, when she ran for re-election, Erie County went for Carl Palladino, and Republicans got a big lift from her, from him. But despite that, Kathy Hochul got 80% of the vote running as a Democrat. So she's a tough candidate.
What are your thoughts, Brendan?
I don't even think she had an opponent last year, but that's another story. If you go and look at this, and you know, there's a lot of money. Special elections always cost money. Jane Corwin already has a base. She's been elected several times out there. She's a very good candidate. And you said that Jack Davis is the Tea Party candidate, but the message out there, and people know it, Jack Davis has run for this seat as a Democrat twice already. So he's an opportunist looking for something just because it's a special election.
So you don't think that Kathy Hochul is a match for Jane Corwin? Of course you're biased, but...
yes, I'm partisan, but if you look at Jane's record and her performance out there, and she's been a very conservative Republican, she's done what's right for that district, and she'd do a very good job in Washington.
Although she's been a backbencher who's just voted, Kathy Hochul's gotten things done, taken on fights. And I think that's going to, you know, that's what people want.
Now, you talked about the whole thing about the license plates. I thought Patty Ritchie up in St. Lawrence County, who's now a state senator, took the lead on that out of all the county clerks. And, you know, county clerks give out licenses. They give out license plates. They do dog licenses. There's not a lot they do that upset voters and residents. And if you look at a legislative position where you have to take a position on issues that people care about, it's a lot tougher.
Well, give it what it is, but that's why it's going to be a tough race.
It's always a tough race in the special election. The Republicans have had some difficulty, but I expect Jane Corwin to be the victor.
So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, even though I love the back and forth between you two. There's a new law that has caused some press in the last few days that has been enacted and is in play now this month that would require indoor summer camps to have a medical staff person on board if that indoor camp actually has games like kickball or dodgeball or freeze tag. And many people are saying that this is an unneeded burden. What do you think of this, Brendan? Do you think this is a good law, necessary, or just more government overregulation?
Kids are always going to get hurt. Kids play. Kids have fun. I find the whole thing a little bit ludicrous because a lot of legislators are worried about children, obesity, and kids and what they eat. But here we are trying to limit what they can do and play and not allow them to do stuff. There's always medical staff available. There's always training that people do in terms of first aid and life safety issues. So I'm not quite sure where they think they're going to be helping kids and preventing them from being able to go out there and play.
What are your thoughts, Richard?
Well, I'm going to agree with Brendan on this one. I do think the problem is kids not getting out and getting enough exercise, and anything that gets kids playing kickball, tag, and all these wiffle ball, some of the sports that I was actually peaked in, I think is a good thing. And so I think this whole thing is silly, and I understand that the state health department pulled it back once they got ridiculed, after one day of ridicule, so that's a good thing. We need kids out there playing, and anything that does that is good.
Right. Okay, so there's another debate that I want to touch on. We're running out of time, but I need to know where you guys stand on this issue. Brendan, sweet corn or onion? The Farm Bureau says a majority of New Yorkers want the sweet corn to be the state vegetable.
I'm a sweet corn person.
Richard?
Boy, these are the issues that that decide what's going on. And maybe what's wrong with Albany is that where you're talking about sweet corn and onions and such. How about Brussels sprouts? I like Brussels sprouts.
No, you're not allowed to throw another vegetable in the mix.
He's being a politician. He's avoiding the question.
I'm going to have to go with sweet corn. I'm supposed to stay neutral here, but I have to speak out. Richard, I need you to let us know where you stand on this issue.
Well, I'll join the sweet corn majority here. Now that we've solved the problems of the state.
All right.
That was a tough one.
That's all the time we have tonight. Richard Fife, our Democratic analyst, and Brendan Quinn, our Republican analyst. Thank you so much, guys.